Hi, friends. Welcome back to this week's writing lesson with me, Mr. Core. I hope you guys are still being safe at home, and I'm currently sending you guys all wonderful virtual hugs and virtual elbow bumps as we are trying to stay safe during these times of unknown uncertainty. All right. To get us started with today's writing lesson, you're going to be needing your pen or pencil, a blank sheet of paper, along with your listening ears. Go ahead and stop the video, collect these items, and come right back and hit play. All right, now that you're back with your items, let's continue. We're going to do a quick text preview. And with the text preview, I want you guys to look at the text and decide whether or not this text is a fiction text, a nonfiction text, or poetry. For fiction text, the story is not real. You are using STORY. You're reading for enjoyment. You're using illustrations. The story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. For a nonfiction text, it's real. We have facts. We are reading to learn something. There might be graphs, charts, or even pictures in the story, along with bold words. And for poetry text, it's written in stanzas. It has a rhythmic pattern to it, and there are lines. It just flows. Oops, sorry. It just flows. Okay. So let's do a quick text preview. I'm going to pull up the text here so we can see. And the text is also available for you in the Teams section. You'll see the classwork along with the text itself. So as I'm looking at this text preview, I'm seeing a heading. See my subheading. I see pictures. Oh, I see bold words. What else am I seeing? Harvested by hand, a migrant's life. Oh, look, you guys, another picture and a caption that says growers often provided migrants with poor housing. Okay, okay. I'm still seeing more information. All right, I think I got it. I'm going back to my lesson now, and just from that text preview, notice I was not reading in the text heavily. I was just looking at what's going on and what am I seeing. And if you came up with that this text is a nonfiction, then you were definitely correct. This is a nonfiction text, you guys. And for this nonfiction text, you're going to stop the video again and you're going to create your four square for a nonfiction text. Make sure your four square note tracker is outlined the way how mine is. So go ahead and stop and create your worksheet. All right, now that you're back and you have created your four square for a nonfiction text, we are going to continue. So after our text preview, I'm just showing you again, just before we can move on. After a text preview, you're going to be having some thinking jobs when you are reading. Just like any text that we read, we are going to be thinking about what is the topic, what is the author teaching me about the topic, and what is the author's point of view. From last week, I brought back our topic and main idea worksheet. A few of you guys used this last week, and some of you used your Foursquare. Both were completely acceptable. I'm just bringing this back again because some of us used it last week. Topic and the main idea for each section that led to the author's point of view. Okay, friends? All right. So we are going to be reading part of our text, and we are going to be coming up with the topic. What is the topic of the text? What is the author teaching me about the topic? And what is the author's point of view? So let's see if we can find some of this information in the parts that we're going to be reading together, and the rest you're going to be reading on your own. The title of the text is called Caesar Chavez, Migrant Hero. Got my title. I wonder if this is who the text will be about. Let's see. First subheading section, harvested by hand. You probably know that the fruits, nuts, and vegetables you eat were once crops that grew in fields. But did you ever stop to wonder how these crops are harvested? Some are harvested by machines, but many fruits in particular are too delicate. Research shows that nearly half of all US fruit is still harvested by hand. Most of those hands belong to migrant workers who travel from farm to farm picking fresh food so that we can eat it. It's hard work that can pay little. The migrant workers aren't always treated well by the farmers who hire them. One man spent his life trying to help migrant workers. His name was Cesar Chavez. All right, friends, notice how in the last sentence for this subheading area, harvested by hands, lets us know this text is going to be about Cesar Chavez, which was also hinted in the title itself, Cesar Chavez, Migrant Hero. All right, let's continue. A migrant's life. Cesar Estrada Chavez was born to a Mexican American family in 1927 near Yuma, Arizona. As a child, he lived on a small farm. Caesar loved life on the farm, but dishonest men cheated the Chavez family. In 1937, they lost their land. The family joined the many other poor families who traveled west during the Great Depression looking for jobs as migrant farm workers. Life on the road was very different for the Chavez family from life on their farm in Arizona. Many farmers in California wanted people to work for little pay. Then the farmers could take would keep, more money from from the food they sold. As a result, life for migrant farm workers was often terrible. Workers toiled in the hot sun for hours, but sometimes had to pay for any water they drank in the fields. The workers spent much of the little money they made on temporary housing, usually rundown sacks that were hot in summer, cold in winter. The shacks often came with holes and insects, but no bathrooms or any way to cook. Ooh, this is hard. Migrants' life was definitely hard. Sometimes, instead of mattresses to sleep on, owners gave the workers straw. For several years, the Chavez family moved around California, finding work wherever they could. By the time Caesar graduated from the eighth grade, he had gone to more than 30 schools. Wow, just think about how many schools we have gone to. He was often teased because he didn't have decent clothes or shoes and because he spoke English with a Spanish accent. Caesar and his siblings worked in the fields with their parents on weekends and during the summer. It was hard work, yet migrant workers were often cheated out of their already low wages. One time, Caesar's whole family worked for 7 weeks, 7 days a week. At the end of the harvest, they found that their boss had left without paying them, and there was nothing they could do. Even though they harvested tons of fruit and vegetables, they barely earned enough to feed themselves, let alone enough to save and get ahead. That was just completely unfair, you guys. The best hope for most migrants was and is the education of their children. But education for migrant children was hard to come by. Many immigrant children grew up in the fields and started at working as young as age 8. Caesar himself left school after the 8th grade to work in the fields full time to help support his family. Without a good education, the children often kept doing migrant work when they grew up, and the cycle continued. So I'm going to go ahead and stop here, and you're going to finish the text on your own. Once you finish reading the text on your own, you're going to come back to the lesson. And one thing that I did not mention when I started the lesson, you guys, before we went into quarantine, we were learning about heroes. And we learned that heroes come in different sizes and shapes. And for this text, we're reading about a hero, Cesar Chavez, and we're going to learn how he was considered a hero and why he was considered a hero. All right, friends, so let's jump back into the text now that you've finished reading. All right, now that you've finished reading the text, I went ahead and I filled out some parts that I was like, I hope I got this right. So as I was finishing up the text and just rereading the areas that we read, I was thinking about what is the topic, what is the author teaching me about the topic, and what is the author's point of view. From what we read together, we know the topic is about Cesar Estrada Chavez, who is a migrant hero. For paragraph one, section one, I should say, harvested by hand, the main idea that I pulled out was that half the fruits harvested in the United States are by migrant workers, and migrant workers are not treated well by farmers that hire them. And for the second subheading that I pulled information from, A Migrant's Life, hardships family faces. Without a good education, the children often kept doing migrant work when they grew up, and the cycle continued. Now, friends, as you can tell, I used the outline that was introduced last week to just to better get the information down. You are more than welcome to use your Foursquare for a nonfiction text outline to help you. When you're finished, you should already have the remaining subheadings filled in along with what is the author's point of view. What is the author trying to teach me about Cesar Chavez? All right. When you are done, you will have two writing prompts to answer that will be under teams. The first written prompt will be, how did Chavez's upbringing influence who he was as a leader? Upbringing is how he was raised. So, how did his childhood influence who he was as a leader? And the second writing prompt you have to answer, do you think nonviolence is a good way to deal with a problem? Why or why not? Use examples from the text to explain your answer. You guys, when you're rereading this text, I want you to annotate for important details, jot the main idea down. After reading, make sure you have notes on how and why Cesar Chavez was considered a hero. Use details and evidence to support your answer in your writing prompt, you guys. This text, I want you to reread more than once I want you guys to pay attention to the information in the text and don't rush. You have until Friday to submit your work, but I want you to submit it. I want you to take time to read and answer the prompts. All right, friends? If you have any questions about the work, feel free to text or call me, and I will talk to you guys during the week. Bye now.